Students, let's go to the second unit in development economics, namely theories of economic development. In this unit, we have to discuss on classical theory of economic development, Rostow's stages of growth, theory of big push, balanced and unbalanced growth theories. Here I have missed typing classical theory. Please note down. The four topics that we have to study in this unit are classical theory of economic development, Rostow's stages of growth, theory of big push, balanced and unbalanced growth theories. Let's begin with the classical theory. The theories of economic development points out the nature of economic development and the factors contributing to economic development. Classical economics refers to work done by a group of economists in the 18th and 19th centuries. The theories developed mainly concentrates on the dynamics of economic growth. The generalized classical theory on growth and stagnation is a combination of contributions of Adam Smith, David Ricardo, and Robert Malthus. All these are called as the classical economists. The classical theory was put together by combining the common stands of thought of these economists within the individual growth theories. To understand the generalized classical theory of growth and stagnation, let us first look into the individual theories propagated by each of the three economists, namely Adam Smith, Robert Malthus, and David Ricardo. Now let's see the propagation of Adam Smith in the field of economic development. Adam Smith is regarded as the father of political economy. He has presented the economic ideas in his famous work, namely An Inquiry into the Nature and Causes of the Wealth of Nations, which was published in 1776. The title of his famous work reflects that economic growth and development were the main topics that concerned Adam Smith. In his book, he talks about capital accumulation, population growth, and labor productivity. He always argued in favor of free trade and was always against planned economies. His economic ideas relating to economic development are as follows. First of all, he stressed on the state policy of laissez-faire. Adam Smith was a strong propagator of economic freedom. As a tool of economic development, he advocated the state policy of laissez-faire. Laissez-faire implied economic freedom for every individual, and that should not be hampered in any way by the state. In simple, laissez-faire meant absence of intervention by the state, that is the government. According to Adam Smith, the state's interferences were not only damaging, but it was not at all necessary as well. He believed in natural law. which, in his opinion, was very useful to humanity and helpful to the economic development of the country. Always enlightened or guided by self interest, each individual would automatically work in promoting the economic welfare of his and of the society, his own and of the society as a whole. Adam Smith thus advised us that there is something called as an invisible hand which would always look into or which would always be enlightened or guided by self interest, wherein each individual would do his or her best in promoting the economic welfare of his or her own and the society as a whole. So he always supported individual freedom relating to choice of occupation and the utilization of property. The next was with regard to production techniques, namely division of labor. Adam Smith considered division of labor as a very important technique of production. It is division of labor that largely improves the productivity of labor. As a matter of fact, division of labor is the starting point of Smith's theory of economic growth. He begins his theory of economic growth by highlighting this concept, namely division of labor. According to Smith, division of labor was a very important technique to increase productivity, as it had increased the skill of every worker, saved the time to produce things, and promoted largely the inventions of labor saving machines. In Smith's opinion, the size of the market is an important limitation of the division of labor. Thus, this technique of production is useful and important provided there is adequate market for the commodities and the services produced. And the next concept that he highlighted was accumulation of capital. Adam Smith had given due importance to savings and accumulation of capital in the process of economic development. He believed that the capital accumulation would lead to division of labor. He viewed that the capital accumulation was an essential condition for the rapid economic development. So, the crux of the problem of economic development was to enhance savings and investment potentials in the country. The rates of savings led to the rates of investment, but the amount of savings depended upon capital investments or the rents of the land. In this regard, the working classes were regarded as incapable of savings, whereas the capitalists and landlords have had the large capability of savings. This concept was based on his iron law of wage. The main objective of investment, according to Adam Smith, was to earn profits. But the profits were likely to deteriorate with the economic development. In a competitive market, the producers had to increase the rates of wages with the rising rates of capital and investment, and that would tend to reduce profits. And the rates of interest had very significant role in the economic development of a nation. According to Adam Smith, the rate of interest falls with the rise in prosperity and population, and consequently, the supply of capital increases. It is because the money lenders had to invest more capital with the fall of the rate of interest to maintain their standard of living at the previous level. As such, with the fall of interest rate, the capital accumulation and economic progress improved. And now let's look into the agents of economic growth. Adam Smith recognized farmers, producers, businessmen as the three important agents of economic growth. He considered that the free trade and open market competition had led farmers, producers, and businessmen to expand the markets, both domestic and international, which in turn had stimulated economic development so rapidly. According to Smith, agriculture and industry, along with commerce, were fully complementary to each other, meaning to say that these areas, namely agriculture, industry, and commerce, would grow simultaneously. The agricultural surplus, as a result of economic development, enhances the demand for goods and services on the one hand, which leads to commercial progress and manufacturing industries on the other. And this also leads to increase in the agricultural production through the utilization of advanced techniques of production. And then the cumulative development process. According to Smith, the process of development is cumulative. Once the development starts, it gathers momentum and proves to be cumulative. The accumulation of capital and expansion of market make possible the utilization of the division of labor as a production technique. In production, it increases the GDP, the gross domestic product, or national income, which in turn promotes savings and then investments. Most of the underdeveloped countries are caught up in a vicious circle of poverty due to lack of capital. Thus, Smith advised that such economies should start their process of development through raising the level of savings and investment. According to Adam Smith, increased savings and investment positively promotes further economic development. And finally, he mentions stationary state. Adam Smith considered that the progressive state was not endless, meaning to say that development cannot happen endlessly. This process of development ultimately leads an economy into a stationary state. The static or stationary state of an economy may be regarded as the state of full employment. It is this condition when the growth of the economy becomes fully static or stagnant. The perfect competition reduces wages to the subsistence level. The profits of the producers continue to come down and reach the lowest level due to tough competition among businessmen, and investment automatically begins to fall. Ultimately, a capitalist economy reaches its stationary state of the level of full employment. According to Smith, the stationary state is very dull. The life becomes hard in the stationary state for all sections of the society and miserable when the state starts falling. This static state is inevitable in a capitalist economy followed by a free economy. Broadly, we can say that the classical theory of economic development finally reaches what is called as a stationary state. Now, suppose an unexpected increase in profits brings about an increase in investment, which adds to existing stock of capital and to the steady flow of improved techniques. The increase in capital accumulation raises the wage fund. Higher wages induce an accelerated population growth, which causes the demand for food to rise. Food production is raised by employing additional labor and capital. But diminishing returns to land bring about rise in labor cost. As a result, the price of food crops goes up. In turn, rents increase, wages rise, thereby reducing profits. Reduction in profits implies reduction in investment, retarded technological progress, lowering of wage fund, and slowing down of population growth and capital accumulation. In the classical model, the end result of capitalist model is ultimately stagnation. This stagnation resulted from the natural tendency of profits to fall and consequent reduction of capital accumulation. When this happens, capital accumulation stops, population becomes constant, and stationary state sets in. So, this is how Adam Smith explains his theory of economic development. But we should remember, this Smith's theory had limited validity for poor countries, as these economies have low capacity for savings and investment. But no doubt, Smith's idea of agents of growth is quite useful in underdeveloped countries for their economic development. Who are the agents of growth? Farmers, producers, and businessmen. This idea of agents of growth is quite useful in underdeveloped countries for their economic development. So, this is about Adam Smith's contribution to the theory of economic development. In the next class, let's look into Robert Malthus' ideas on economic development. That's all for now. Thank you.